This week we watched Drive Away Dolls, directed by Ethan Coen.
I noticed that the Coen brothers, but it's probably like by far one of the worst Coen pictures I've ever seen. It has like all the visual things you'd expect from them, but a lot of it still come off as very forced and trite. The substance of it to me is like very lacking. And that thing with the Coen brothers, their comedic elements are always very engaging and funny, but this it just kept like they're hammering jokes that weren't landing. And that's not a knock, but this is not a movie that's written by both Joel and Ethan. It's written by Ethan and his wife. But yeah, this movie's not good at all. I want like my hour 30 minutes back from it.
I was shocked. Well, not shocked because I saw some of the reviews and the reviews were not great. So I wasn't like completely thrown off. But in terms of like, this is a Coen brother making this movie, like that's kind of embarrassing to be honest. Like, I think the performances are good. I feel like everyone like, tried to pull it out. They have really good actors, but they're not using them really to their full capacity. Like, why is Pedro Pascal in there for literally like 2 minutes? And like, why is Matt Damon in there for like literally 2 minutes? I just feel like even Beanie Feldstein, who is funny, I feel like they could have used her more too, but like the jokes were not hitting. I was so over it. I was not invested in anyone.
Yeah.
Like, I wasn't invested in any of the characters. I didn't care what happened. And also it was kind of predictable, like where the story's gonna go. So like once it gets there, you're just like, okay, cool. So the idea of it could have been cool, like a lesbian road trip, but they're getting into some like crime issues. Like they're getting tangled up in this like miscommunication and whatever, and they have to figure it out. Like that could have been fun. But I just feel like the way that they did it was very poorly executed and kind of just like a waste of like everyone's talent.
Out of the two who would work, probably won't have a good career by themselves. Joel is the person who's like, Joel could probably have a really good career without his brother being involved with their project based on the reaction between this and Tragedy of Macbeth. It feels like a heavy-handed attempt at rewriting Thelma and Louise, because of course Thelma and Louise had a lot of lesbian subtext, but they couldn't really say in depth that they were lesbian. It's that kind of movie. That's the thing. I'm saying Coen Brothers pictures, they take characters up a notch, but this movie was kind of like doing a little bit too much.
Margaret Qualley's character, I feel like her accent, that weird Texan accent, just took me out of it immediately. Actually, it took me out of it when I saw the trailer. Like when I saw the trailer, I was like, I'm not gonna like this. And lo and behold, I did not like it. I actually was more interested in like, okay, how is this crime gonna unfold? Like these two guys are terrible at their jobs. So let's just see where that goes and let's see how they get tangled up in this. And every single time when things were starting to get interesting, they would cut away to that like psychedelic scene with Miley Cyrus. And I was just like, why would you do that? Like you're totally taking someone out of the experience of actually watching the real story unfold. Like if you wanted to try to tell us like, oh, the senator was in this thing with this woman and she ended up, taking his I don't know what she did. Honestly, I wasn't paying that close attention.
A
Then do that in a flash
of his member.
Yeah. And apparently a whole bunch of other people's too, because I guess that's her business or something. Like, if you want to do that, like, can you just do it in a flashback? Like, why did we have to keep cutting back and forth from, like, the actual story to get that? And then the psychedelic 70s, I don't know what, was it animation? I don't know what that was. It looked terrible.
Like,
I don't know what the choices were.
No.
Like, the editing style, awful.
Miley Cyrus and that dude, the last one, psychedelic scene, went far fucking long. And they're talking dialogue like it's gonna be okay. Like, what does this have to do with the movie? Like, why is it taking 5 minutes for what was at one point a 10-second cutaway as a transition? Why is it now getting the full-fledged treatment it deserves? Like, nothing in this movie said I need to pay attention to Miley Cyrus' character. I didn't even know it was Miley Cyrus most of the time when she was seen in those hippie scenes. And now, who is this guy now being introduced to who's now talking and is nervous? Like, what? Tell me, Ethan, what was the point? Like,
yes, he and his brother made films, but he was like, he was there. Like, he was also a director of some of these like iconic movies. So it's not like you don't know what you're doing because you've been doing it for so long and you've been doing it well. So what? And they wrote the script for it in like 2002.
Yeah.
And then, and I feel like we talked about this. Sometimes if the movie is taking too long to figure out, it's not good.
It's not good.
Like you just have to leave it. I didn't get anything from it. And it just kind of felt like a waste of time. Like there was an interesting story in there where it could have been good and it could have been fun. Even like they could have called back to their own movies. Like that would have been interesting.
Ethan was like, I think Ballad of Buster Scruggs was the last movie. That's why Joel kind of did Macbeth by itself. And he kind of said after 30 years he wasn't having fun making movies. So I guess this is kind of his attempt to undo those 30 years of getting bored. Because this movie, honestly, I mentioned Thelma and Louise, but it honestly feels like also a callback a bit to what they did with Raising Arizona in a way. But those kind of sensibilities as far as comedy and filmmaking don't really work nowadays in a way. Like the audience is not going to react to Raising Arizona now the way they did back then. That's just a fact. And he said both him and Joel had come to terms with how it's changed. So I guess that's why you get the major correct. Like Joel got more serious with Macbeth, dramatic kind of stuff, and he and Ethan I think dove too far into the comedy side. But it's clear both on their choices of making movies separately that I think it's more so Joel kind of balanced or tempered the nonsensical comedy that Ethan likes in their projects. Because if you watch their movies, there is a clearly defined balance of both serious and comedic moments. But you see, but it's clear Joel is still strong by himself, whereas Ethan still needs a bit of that. We're doing too much. Dial it back down a bit as a creator.
We love Macbeth, but I'm not sure that most people actually watched it.
Yeah.
So I feel like there's probably more power in them just coming back together and making movies. Because I think this separate experiment that they're doing, I don't know how well it's panning out. Like, honestly, the talent is great. Like, I want the best for everyone, especially Miss Geraldine. I don't know if she's been in other stuff. Keep putting her in stuff.
If it wasn't a Coen brother attached to it, you would think it's another B film and you'd be fine with it. But knowing that it's a Coen brother, not Coen brothers, but it has a Coen brother, you expect so much out of it, and it's disappointing as what we got. Did you like that clip? Well, you can listen to the entire podcast because the 16mm Film Crew podcast is available on all major podcast platforms.